And good morning, Keys. It is Keys Talk, 96.9, 102.5. The talk of the entire Keys at 8:40. And we now bring in a special guest. Crystina Bass is a local author who has put out the work called Seen and Now Heard, An American Girl. It is found on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. It is all over the place. So congratulations first to you, Crystina, for putting out this work, which seems to be in high demand.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so it is in high demand because it's kind of the untold story of a lot of momentous occasions, and you are a Keys resident with your husband, and there's a lot of local ties to some of these very momentous occasions that happened throughout history. So to give a little bit of a background, Crystina, your father was a CIA operative, am I right in that?
Yes, he was.
So you grew up kind of seeing some of these incidents firsthand, and you actually reached out to us here at Keys Talk because your husband was viewing Fox News and saw that they had an individual there who had somewhat admitted that the CIA had been involved with the JFK assassination. Is that how this came about?
Correct. He also heard your commentary the following day in regard to the Tucker Carlson interview the night before.
Okay. Yep. So there was that. And Tucker had brought out, there was a possible link there. But your book has made that claim, in bold print that there really is a connection between the CIA and JFK and Lee Harvey Oswald's assassination, et cetera. A couple of chapters in your book specifically deal with that. And this is as a result of you observing your father's actions during that time.
Yes, I actually had to do the interview. At my age in high school, when you get to government class, they ask you, everybody knows where your parents were when JFK was murdered. And the assignment was, go interview your parents. And this is how I came to find out where my father was at the time JFK was assassinated.
He actually told you?
Oh, yeah. He told me.
And that was your first time learning
about the JFK. Everything else growing up in this, and it's really odd, if your father's a baker or a policeman, that's your norm.
Yeah.
My father was a CIA asset. That was normal. I knew what he did as I could comprehend it at the ages growing up.
Wow.
So this was not an assignment that I wanted because as a CIA asset and as a Cuban immigrant, Kennedy's was not a fan in our house. So that was not a broached topic.
Give a little background. So you come from Cuban descent.
Yes.
Kennedy made enemies of the Cubans.
Significant enemies of the Cubans.
Give a little background as to how that occurred and why.
We had the Bay of Pigs invasion. That was also a CIA asset, a CIA operation. And last minute, as the Cubans were landing in the Bay of Pigs, Kennedy decided not to provide the air support, leading several people to their deaths. People were imprisoned, and the Cuban community saw it as the Bay of Pigs
fiasco, kind of.
It was a fiasco, betrayal. That's what's referred to in the Cuban community as the Bay of Pigs betrayal.
Yeah.
So that made it pretty bad.
So that's interesting. We are speaking with Crystina Bass. She's author of Seen and Now Heard, An American Girl. Again, it's available on Kindle, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, all over the place. A fascinating read. And yes, full disclosure, I did not get to read the book yet, but I've heard a lot about it, seen a lot about it, and I'm looking forward to doing that. So maybe you don't want to be a spoiler alert in full, but let's talk about, there's a lot of intertwining connections here between the Cuban descent of your family, your father being a CIA asset, but a Cuban himself. And then we come upon the JFK assassination. And your chapter specifically talks about where your father was immediately in the days prior to the JFK assassination. And it's fascinating. That does show quite a link between the CIA and the JFK assassination.
Yes, he was ordered to be at a specific place and time all day long, so they had public alibis. That specific place was No Name Pub on No Name Key. Mm-hmm. And when he arrived, he opened the door, and there was a who's who of CIA assets sitting in that room. They didn't know what was going on. They just knew once they walked in there and saw what was going on, they were there for a public alibi. They did not realize what it was until it came over the radio station that he had been assassinated. And then there was a toast that was called, and it said, "Salud, the bastard's dead." They all drank, put their glasses down, and they left.
Wow. So the CIA wanted JFK dead.
Yes, among several other entities. It was collusion on multiple levels with multiple government entities and other private factions.
Yeah, so you discuss this in the book as well.
Mm-hmm.
But it went deeper than that. Then Lee Harvey Oswald was also silenced as well.
Correct.
Yeah.
Lee Harvey Oswald, he was at home when it happened, and he
Your
watched it
father,
on
that is,
yes.
Yeah.
They watched it on TV, and then he took my mom, left, and he was gone for a few days at the safe house there in Marathon. What was discussed, what was not discussed, I'm unaware of, but it was an actual hit that the American public did witness.
Wow. So, again, speaking with Crystina Bass, author of Seen and Now Heard, An American Girl on Keystalk 96.9, 102.5, The Talk of the Keys. So there has been long since speculation about the ties between the CIA and Cuban, discontent with JFK. And then, of course, Lee Harvey Oswald seemed very coincidental that he also was silenced as well. So very, very interesting. The CIA did want all of this to occur, and your father apparently had knowledge of this.
He had somewhat knowledge, direct knowledge that he was going to be assassinated that day. He did not know.
Okay.
Not until it came over the radio.
Yeah.
And as far as Lee Harvey Oswald, he did not know that he was going to be assassinated on that day.
Yeah.
He just knew that he was not going to make it to trial. And, it went down the way that it went down.
Yeah, interesting. So do you think that he was told later what did happen?
Oh, I'm sure he did. I'm sure he was told.
But he didn't tell his family.
Well, he's not going to sit there and disclose it completely to myself or
Right.
to the rest of the family. And, the only person he would have that conversation with is my grandmother. My mother's mother, and she was also a CIA operative.
Oh, my gosh. And they all lived in Marathon? Or?
No, they lived in Miami.
Okay.
Her links to the CIA happened when she was in Cuba. She was one of the very first female attorneys in Cuba, and she was among the very first that had to leave because she was on Castro's list to be assassinated.
So Castro rose to power, really became kind of a capitalist at the expense of the rest of the country. And then the CIA got very involved with Cuban dissidents, and one of whom was your father.
Correct.
Wow. Very, very interesting. Your book also does discuss a number of other momentous occasions: Watergate, Iran-Contra, China, which is a huge topic these days. These are all tying back to your father's experience in the CIA?
Yes, they are all in there. He's the one that warned us about China back in the 90s. He was talking about that situation and how that all's going to play out. And here it is. It's playing out now. You have Chinese troops in Cuba. You have Venezuelan troops in Cuba. You have the Chinese investing all throughout the Caribbean, all throughout Central America. We have a Chinese port right here in the Bahamas. So
it's scary. Yeah, they're buying up land around missile sites and the like. They're certainly infiltrating a lot of things, including TikTok. So I would not advise using it very actively. So again, speaking with Crystina Bass on Keys Talk 96.9, 102.5, The Talk of the Keys, Seen and Now Heard, An American Girl. So you're certainly gaining some recognition here as not only a local author, but you're gaining recognition on the international stage for some of the stories and revelations that you're bringing to the fore here. Is there another work in the book, in the works, that you're planning?
Yes, I'm actually working on a book about my grandmother, who also worked as a CIA operative.
Yeah.
So that one I'm in the process of doing now.
Wow, that's a lot of hard work. How long did it take to write Seen and Now Heard?
Actually, I started in 2008, and it was actually never meant to be published.
Really?
I did it for my sister, who's 13 years younger, and she had even though we had the same father, he was at a different stage in life, and she had no knowledge of this.
Oh, my.
So I put it to paper, and then I started thinking about my children, and then I started seeing what was going on politically around the world. And if someone was going to tell his story, I wanted it told by myself, because it can be twisted in any way that they want. So I'm going to control that narrative.
Yeah. So was it ever discussed in your upbringing, what your father does? Was it just kind of not spoken about because he obviously couldn't speak openly about what he was involved with? So what was the reaction of you and your siblings and even interaction with your mother, given your father's profession?
Well, my mom knew from point one because my father knocked on her front door to have a meeting with my grandmother.
Yes.
So that she knew from day one. As far as I was concerned, you always knew. It's just as you grew up, how much you comprehended about it. And then when I got to about the age of 12 or 13, they made for very interesting father-daughter conversations. Yeah. Most father conversations are boys and what not to do. No, my father was cluing me into a lot of the operations that he had been on in the past, what I had witnessed as I was little, and, bringing me up to speed on that.
Yeah, so he wanted you to be aware, obviously, taking care of his little girl, for sure. Again, Crystina Bass, the book is known as Seen and Now Heard, An American Girl. If you Google, you will certainly easily find it, find out how to procure it. The No Name Pub, a part of history.
Yes.
Certainly.
Yes.
Wow. Fascinating read. So I guess we have hit on the major topics of the book. We don't want to spoil all of it for your readers, but we will certainly look forward to the upcoming. Do you have a title for the new book?
Not yet. Yeah. I've got to finish it. I've got a few titles, but as soon as I get it, I will send you an email, let you know, here's the title and here's when it's coming out. Yeah.
So very, very interesting. So ties locally, ties within the Cuban community, all going back to the JFK assassination, which still has not had full disclosure on the part of the government as of yet. Lee Harvey Oswald and all of those things, plus Watergate, Iran, Contra, China, and much more, all divulged and uncovered for you. Seen and Now Heard, An American Girl, work by Crystina Bass, a local Keys resident, and we appreciate you bringing this all to light.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. I think we've hit all the high points. Anything else you'd like to add?
No, that's it.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming in and being here and bringing this all to our attention. We'll certainly be following it, and we hope to have you back.
Thanks.
Very good. Crystina Bass. She is author, Seen and Now Heard, An American Girl. She's on Keys Talk 96.9.